Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Comic Reviews. Sorry I don't have my intro queued up, but I realized hair in my face, the one place it wants to be. I don't have audio when I do screen sharing on here. I didn't realize that the first couple weeks I was using this. Still downstairs in the new house, not planning to have it that way for much longer. I just need a secondary desk for upstairs for what I'm planning to do. The desk I use is my dad's desk, actually. And so it's, well, here. My dad was big into Westerns. And so it's an old roll-top sheriff-style desk, not really optimized for computers. So yeah, I used it because that's what I had to use for what I was doing in the apartment. But now I got more space, so I'm going to get just a secondary little cheapo desk or something upstairs in my collection room kind of thing and start broadcasting from there. And I tell you all this just so people have a chance to get here live. Anyway, very late episode, started at 9:15 at night. Wasn't planning on that initially, but if you didn't tell from the thumbnail, we got a big-ass week, and this isn't even everything. The DC Universe streaming app launched last week, and so I've started using it. I signed up for that because I am a DC nut, and there are comics there. So for Trade Talk this week, I have something from the DC streaming app because I read a whole story already, and I decided to use it to introduce a new segment on the show as well, which will be retro reviews, throwbacks. I'll be reviewing something that is at least 5 years old that I've never reviewed on Comic Reviews before. Those are my guidelines. Not that Comic Reviews is 5 years old as long as I've been doing it, but yes, I'll review anything that's on the DC streaming app that's at least 5 years old. And if I happen to get another, old comic, but I don't really pick up singles like that. So yeah, that's my plan. Anyway, let's get into what we'll be discussing tonight because it's hefty. We'll start off with Black Hammer, Age of Doom, number 5, followed by Doctor Strange, number 5 as well. Mr. Miracle, number 11. Captain America Annual, number 1. Go Power Rangers Back to School, number 1. I think that's like a one-shot, I'm not sure. Batman Lil Gotham, number 1. This is a free special, which was nice. Batman the Damned, or no, just Batman Damned, number 1, the first DC Black Label book. Lando, Double or Nothing, number 5. Batman, number 55. Wal-mart Superman, number 3. And that's not all. Let me do this little maneuver real quick. Oh, come on, come back. All right, come here. Full screen, share screens. Batman Beyond, number 1. And Batwoman Hydrology will be our trade talk. So it's a lot of things. It's a whole lot of things. Stop screen sharing. Okay. So yeah, there's a lot to get into. So without further ado, let's go ahead and start off. Black Hammer, Age of Doom, number 5. Okay, so what is the big mystery, or spoiler alerts for Black Hammer? Let me start off with that. All right, what's the big mystery behind Black Hammer? why they're on the farm, what happened when in their fight with Anti-God that put them on the farm. These are our answers. This is what we've been waiting. Not counting the mini-series, the Sherlock Frankenstein, the Legion of Evil or something mini-series. 17 issues for. It's kind of interesting, but it's deepening the mystery. So I'm beginning to see a tell with this, but damn if I ain't invested. Okay, so Colonel Weird has the ability to comprehend, to understand, and to see the pattern. Very Dr. Manhattan-esque, I suppose. So when the heroes were battling Anti-God in Spiral City and Black Hammer killed him, Colonel Weird transported them to the Parazone. And if you've not been reading this series, none of what I'm saying makes any damn sense. Transported them to the Parazone, and Lady Dragonfly put them into, or under a spell, into this world of Rockridge, whatever the name of the town is, the farm. And the reason for this is Colonel Weird can see the pattern, and he knows that good defeating Anti-God does not triumph. It continues the pattern. So by Black Hammer killing Anti-God and the heroes surviving, all that would happen is there would be unbalance in the universe. There would be more good than there is evil. And so evil would rise again in the form of Anti-God again. And so his fix for this is to take good out of the universe and evil out of the universe. They're both gone now. So there's still balance, but not in the way that like you would traditionally think. So that's really interesting on a couple different levels. There's the just on the page level of plot and the rules of the universe, and that kind of stuff's fairly interesting. Just it creates really cool character dynamics here, wherein Golden Gale is literally ready to kill the two of them, and that's pretty damn entertaining. And understandable. God, Dave Stewart just killed it on the art here. It's amazing to see this. It's so trippy and weird and freaky looking. But then there's the metafiction level that I find really interesting, because we talk about this a lot when we talk comics. You know, it goes back. It always goes back to it. Why doesn't Batman kill the Joker? Because then you wouldn't buy the books anymore, right? Like, if you had the story where the hero just kills the villain and it's all over, everybody's saved, the whole universe is safe and everything's hunky-dory, you're not going to come back next week to read that. Like, as fun as it might be for an issue to see Bruce just sitting in his house drinking a scotch on the rocks and the boys hanging out bickering, that you can't make a series out of that. There's no drama, right? It's just the tenet of dramatic storytelling. There always has to be a hero. There always has to be a villain. There always has to be something going on. And I, of course, shouldn't say that you wouldn't buy that. It's not interesting, because I fucking bought all these issues of Black Hammer, and it's super interesting to just see these would-be superhero types sitting around dealing with, like, life. And yeah, there's like this underlying mystery of what's going on, and there's this dramatic storytelling, but really it is just Jeff Lemire doing solid solid character work to draw you in and maintain your interest. So my whole argument of why doesn't Batman kill the Joker is, well, no one would buy the book anymore after that. Lemire's kind of making the point, no, you will. There's just other ways to do drama. We don't have to have evil villains to have drama. Drama is people. And so it's a very, very profound and interesting metafiction in that way. And I really like that aspect of it. And it's just tied up in such a cool superhero-y bow. And there's a lot to it that is about that metafiction, about those attachments to fictional characters. They talk here about how Abe just wants to go back to the farm because he'd fallen in love with someone and all this. And they keep telling him it wasn't real. It's not, we can't go back. We can never make it happen again. And Abe says, I don't care. Just find Tammy. Take me back to Tammy right now. He doesn't care if it's real. He was happy. And that's kind of just the power of aesthetics, right? And it's a weird argument to have. And I don't know if I want to get too into it, but I'll just give the grade school version. All right. Imagine yourself, or rather reflect upon a experience you had watching a movie, reading a book, whatever, consuming some form of art, and it gave you an intense emotional reaction, whether that be fear, anxiety, sadness, laughter. Like, have you ever read a book and laughed so hard you had to put it down for a second? I have. Okay. Now, the thing is, when you were feeling those things, you were identifying with the characters. And you are, to an extent, not to an extent, you are feeling with them. When Batman feels sad, I feel sad. In a Tom King book, for example. Well, then, if that is not, like, does anyone really have any disagreement with me that that's what you're doing? You are empathizing, you are feeling with the character. So in what sense isn't it real? It's real to you. It's, depending on the story, it's almost like you experienced it, depending on how intensely you felt what was happening. And so there's really a lot of interesting meta levels to Black Hammer, which from the beginning has been a very meta book in the same spirit of Watchmen, but with a lot of heart. And I think that's where I'll leave it. Black Hammer, very good series. All right, let's go ahead and go on. Talk about Doctor Strange, number 5. Man, I really like Mark Waid's analysis of Doctor Strange as a character. It's super fun. So in this issue, like the first, I don't know, fourth of it, Doctor Strange is shown making his own mystical objects. And it's pretty boss. I really like this. And then, yeah, so it's just, he spends the first couple of pages of this learning to make his own mystical objects, and then he hears from his companion that they're planning to attack Earth, and so he forges one last object that just needs tempering, sticks it in the electric floaty ball to temper it, and the dwarf master says, "The Sword of Strange." And Steven says, "It's not a sword. It's a scalpel." I love it. It's so cool. So it's some kind of like dimension splitting device that he's using, and it's really cool. So he shows up on this alien ship with, like, honestly more powerful than he's ever been before, because now that he has his own mystically imbued objects, of strange objects as they were, he doesn't have to speak incantations. He doesn't have to remember spells. He doesn't have to do what we typically associate with Doctor Strange. Now it's just emotion. Now it's just a part of him. So it's really, really cool. And then he's put in this pretty typical action situation. They have to quickly chase down a warhead and destroy it, and he programs a flight path for his companion to follow, and the flight path is the Sigil of Strange, or the Sigil of the House of Strange, wherever that is, and it stops the thing. And so the guy's defeated, thrown back to his home instead of executed by Strange in dishonor, and then Strange will now return to Earth. Where someone already awaits him. Doctor Strange. Next, the two doctors. I have a feeling Mark Waid's a bit of a Doctor Who fan. So yeah, really fun, really cool, nice, exciting conclusion to this first story arc of this book. I quite enjoyed it, to be honest. I do recommend it. This is just really fun and enjoyable stuff. I quite liked it. All right, let's go ahead and talk about Mr. Miracle, number 11. Christ, this shit's heavy. It's such a funny book. It's so funny. It's so funny. Look, Darkseid's eating a carrot because veggie trace and carrots. Yeah. This was interesting. The Freeze show up to deliver Jake to Darkseid, and upon negotiating and stuff, Darkseid agrees to the terms and accepts Jake in exchange for ending the war and giving up the anti-life equation, which he can only do by ripping out one of his eyes so he can no longer use it since it's knowledge. And then at that point, they're getting ready to say goodbye to Jake when suddenly they reveal their ultimate plan, which is that they booby-trap the stroller to attack Darkseid with some force from the Miracle Machine. A machine from which there is an energy source from which there is no escape. Except Darkseid is able to overpower it because Darkseid is. And I love this panel sequence. You bastard, Darkseid is. Yes, I am. That's some great panel work right there. Oh. Lots of intense beatdown of Scott. Interesting callback to, I believe it was issue 1, right? Either issue 1 or issue 2 of the standing. As Scott pulls a dagger that they also brought with them and uses it to stab Darkseid in the eyeball. And I really love the way that this is all plotted out. The blade was made from the flesh of Orion, Scott's brother, Darkseid's other son. Remember Orion, Dad, your other boy who you killed, leaving me the body? Remember Orion, the guy the prophecy says is the only one who can kill you? Damn. That is really clever. They established this with the umbilical cord thing, and of course Scout points that out. And so yeah, it's a weapon that can destroy Darkseid, and that's how they kill Darkseid. I was not expecting them to succeed in this issue, and then we get this really crazy cliffhanger that's making me wonder, wherein Metron shows up and reveals that now it is time, my son, time to look into the face of God and hear your cheers and take your bow. Where you are is not where you should be, scot-free. There is another world. And we get this image. And so this image, of course, looks like the other angle on the DC Rebirth. Or no, I guess it's not quite that, but it looks very similar. Of all the characters kind of running in one direction toward a light. And yeah. The blue energy also makes you wonder, face of God. So I'm wondering if this is going to tie in with fucking DC Rebirth #1 of all things, and Doomsday Clock and whatnot, or what the situation is. If a mastermind couldn't trap Mr. Miracle, you'd think it's well nigh impossible. Well, you're wrong. It's easy. See how it's done in the next complete issue. Man. So I guess they're going to the main Rebirth universe, which is just... this whole 11-issue series has stood almost entirely on its own, with the exception of Jack Kirby's stuff. So if this is being tied in with Rebirth, that's a really weird choice, but fuck it, I trust it. King hasn't let me down with this series yet. It's been progressively better every issue. And I don't know, I think this kind of works with the idea of the meta commentary on comic books that it is. I was talking about this with someone the other day on Twitter, I can't remember who, about how Mr. Miracle is going to be that book that's in, college bookstores, and it's going to be the kind of thing that some professor will pick as required reading to talk about in a course or something. Just like Watchmen is. Watchmen has that status. It's just kind of a mainstream comic book in a lot of ways. It's a very recognizable book in the industry, and for my money, Mr. Miracle will be that way too. Give it a couple years, maybe. So the thing about Watchmen, though, is, of course, that it's incredibly critical of the comic book industry, and it truly does highlight the negatives. Whereas Mr. Miracle has its critiques of the industry. It throws a lot of shade at Stan Lee and opportunists within the industry in that way. But it's much more reverential to the power of comics. And I find that really, really intriguing. Akuma Ranger says, then again, New Genesis / Apocalypse exist outside of the multiverse. That is true. In Multiversity, you have the map, and Morrison laid it out, and there is only one Darkseid. There is only one New Genesis. So it's an interesting idea. Yeah. I don't know. There's a lot going on here. Makes me curious for the next issue. Not true. Highfather and Orion exist in the Rebirth universe. They are on the DPS. DPS. What's DPS stand for? Jake, I'm waiting for Jake to clear something up for me because I'm not sure what DPS stands for. Dark Side Protection Service? Double page. Oh, the double page spread. Yeah. They are, and so I'm not sure. Morrison established that there's only one dark side. There's only one New Genesis, all that stuff. Doesn't mean anyone follows it. So I don't know. It's what Darkseid's immune. The way Morrison put it is Darkseid is immune to the effects of the multiverse, which is fucking bonkers to think about, and clearly just not how people write it. But that is established in the canon, and it's worth considering when you talk about it. Yeah. Everyone's in here talking about multiverse singularity. I'm more interested in the idea of suffering from depression and escaping Darkseid by killing him, getting out of the trap. I'm just impressed with how well seated that is, because they've been talking about Orion's the only one that can kill Darkseid, but Darkseid can only be killed by his son, and so it's a mix of both of those things. I'm still tripping on all that and how the knife was seated and shit. Man. Jake Carlson says it seemed too easy to kill Darkseid. I didn't want a big battle. Like, to me, too easy would have been a big battle kind of thing that, like, we typically get. And to be fair, we spend a lot of time just seeing them get trashed. I know it's only like, I guess, effectively 3, 6, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 39 panels collectively in which Darkseid is winning. I don't know. I thought it was really interesting stuff. I really enjoyed it. This spread does make me question stuff. And yeah, everyone's talking about there's Highfather there who looks a lot like the new 52 Highfather. There's Orion, there's Barda. So yeah, to face God and take your bow. I don't know. I don't know where it's going. I'm down for it. One more issue, folks. All right, let's go ahead and move on. Talk about Captain America Annual #1. I really enjoyed this. This is really, really good. And it's a standalone. So, all that said, no spoilers. Go get it. It's a great standalone Captain America's story. Slight spoiler, it's set during the war, and I always really like Captain America stories set during the war. That's really enjoyable to me. So yeah, what's going on here? Cap and Bucky are behind enemy lines. They encounter some escaped prisoners from Germany. Concentration camp prisoners. And they help them escape Germany and get to freedom in America. That's the story. That's great. I really like that. It's a perfect story to tell with Captain America, honestly. I would just kill for a Captain America ongoing that's just set in the war. Just like you could do. I know after Star Trek 09 came out, they had a Star Trek comic book series where it was just slight updates of episodes of the show that basically ended the same as the show, but just changed the character dynamics around a little bit, or changed who did what. So like, I think you could do, take like an old Jack Kirby Captain America comic and update it. Just do a new, just do that plot, but change it around, modernize it, and give us a Captain America story. I'd be down for that. That'd be cool as shit. Excuse me. As an ongoing series. I just have trouble breathing when I start talking. I don't know why. One thing I did really, really enjoy about this is the prisoners escaping are not all Jewish. I think they just kind of leave it up in the air that one of them is. The other guy, the guy that's with them, is Soviet and gay, and the woman that's or the other woman that's there is Romani, Gibson. Of course, that's the slur, but that's what most people know, unfortunately, which kind of goes to the reason that's a problem. And so, yeah, I really like that, because as tragic as the Holocaust is for the Jewish community, it's of course worth noting that other people were caught up in that. There were the Soviets and communists as political prisoners. Of course, the Pink Triangle came from homosexuality because they were discouraged. And then the Romani were considered trash people as well. And so it's just really interesting. Just really good Captain America stuff. Lots of cool action. Lots of Nazi punching, which is something I can never get enough of. Just good stuff. I just really enjoyed this. They climb a tower and are faced with impossible odds, but luckily Captain America had a clever plan to get them out of it. The prisoners are saved, and Dugan says, "Hey, do you want me to take you too?" And he's like, Captain Buck, you're like, "No, we've got plenty of fight left in us," and go down to just take on an entire squadron of Nazi thugs. So, yeah, I liked it. Tini Howard, who's the writer of this issue, left a letter in the back, and I thought this was really interesting. So I'm going to read some parts of this letter. I shared something about my own history, that I am descended from European Romani who lived in areas of Germany, Austria, and what was then Czechoslovakia. Our artist, Christopher Sprouse, pointed out that his wife is as well. What an interesting coincidence, and it brought to mind something I wanted to share in our book. We don't always know much about our own histories. Those of us who share blood with peoples that have been the victims of genocide are often scattered to the winds, our records destroyed, our identities hidden. In our own way, we seek to bring ourselves back to life. And forgive me for pronouncing this wrong, I'm sure. Marta Prizabla. We can go with that. One of our heroines in this issue shares her name with my own Romani ancestor. I was never lucky enough to know Marta, and truthfully, she was a bit older than our Marta here. I only even know how to pronounce her name because of its commonly Americanized translation. Presbola. Maybe that's how you say it. I don't know. Sharing our names through story is a way to build our own histories. It lets us show one another that, even in the ashes of an attempt to wipe us out, we can make art, we can be strong, we're not going anywhere, and when genocide raises its ugly head, we're going to plant our feet and invoke everyone's favorite cap line. No, you move. Really good. Really, really good. Very enjoyable story, great context behind it, great story behind the story, right? So I thoroughly enjoyed this. Would recommend just as a really solid Captain America story. One and done's always nice. Go Power Rangers! Choo, 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 choo. Yes, here it is. I'm reviewing a Power Rangers comic on the show, something I thought I'd never do. All right, so cards on the table, comics on the computers. Never been a Power Rangers fan. I remember loosely watching the show when I was a kid. I think I had one of the games on the Genesis, and I was really bad at it because pretty sure all I remember is the segment where the Green Ranger would play the flute and his dinosaur would show up, and yeah. So Power Rangers is a franchise that I pretty much grew out of. One of those few things where I was just like, yeah, I'm not interested in this anymore. This isn't cool anymore. I'm not going to keep watching it. And I really never went back to it. I was surprised in my early 20s to find out that there were adult Power Rangers fans. I never expected that to be a thing. But, I guess it's ultimately, when I really get self-reflective about it, I realize it's the exact same thing as someone my age being a Batman fan, which I am. Just some people stuck with the thing and they can recognize its silliness in moments, but they can still find things to enjoy about it. I don't know how much Power Rangers content has been put out there that's as dark and gritty as some of the Batman content that's out there and clearly marketed towards adults, but we'll get there someday, I'm sure. But then, all that being said, why am I reading Power Rangers, of course? And the answer is Margaret Bennett. I found out Margaret Bennett's coming on to Power Rangers. She's one of my favorite writers in comics. I gotta at least give it a shot. It's really good. I had absolutely no idea what to expect from this. And I loved it. It was so good and just it's everything I love about the way Bennett writes. It is everything I love about the way Margaret Bennett writes, and it was super fun to read in that context. With characters I know absolutely nothing about. So that was really fun. So this is called Go Power Rangers Back to School #1. And this is like the least action-packed Power Rangers you could possibly imagine, I want to say. It's mostly them just telling stories about what they did for a week off of Power Rangering. And of course, they're superheroes, so they can't just have normal lives. It's like, oh, what'd you do your week off? I fucking sat around and watched movies all week, bitch. Like, it's not going to be anything like that. It's going to be, like, I'm a great person all the time. How about you? Nah, I went home and watched TV. So but it is super enjoyable. It's super heartwarming and fun and kind of cool just to see that. So the first, like, we get Jason's story, right? That's his name? Yeah, Jason. Red Ranger. Forgive me for not knowing all the names. Jason's story is he takes American Sign Language as his second language course and volunteered to be a teacher's aide at the Angel Groves Children's Center, which is, I guess, a school for the deaf or hearing impaired. But unfortunately, one of the children there has just lost her father or no, just lost her hearing on a dig with her father, as her father's an archaeologist. And so Jason hits it off reasonably well with all the other kids. And I do want to talk about something structure-wise to this that I thought was clever. Hits it off really well with all the other kids, but he has a lot of trouble getting through to Eliza and establishing a connection with her. And then the teacher has to sit down and have a teaching moment with him and get through to him that he's got to approach her differently and just kind of interact with her differently. So he goes to talk to her about what her favorite dinosaur is. And I don't know, it was really, really interesting to hear the way this kind of all came out in his head as she spells it out with sign language that goes completely over his head because his isn't perfect. And then he has to have this reaction of just not knowing what to do. You need help with karate, volleyball, basketball, mountain biking, scuba diving, soccer, weightlifting. I got you. Punks, putties, big monsters from outer space. They aren't so much dead meat as a great afternoon protein shake. But something like this with Eliza, where everything depended on her uncertainty, on her unhappiness, something where I couldn't train harder, I couldn't push myself further. I felt like such a failure. And so he has to connect with her and kind of learn with her and get her excited. And I don't know, it was a really sweet story. And I don't know, it's just really, really cool. And every ranger gets a story pretty much just like that, except for Kimberly. Zach, the Black Ranger, went to DC with his brother for a week to help a senator get legislation passed regarding insurance, and he had to turn into a Power Ranger and kick a filing cabinet monster. No, he had to just work through it, do really hard paper pushing work that's kind of a thankless ass job because that's what legislation is. And ultimately they're able to succeed, and he worked himself just dead tired because of it, which is, I don't know, sweet. Trini? I don't know how you say her name. She went to a farm with rescue horses. Unfortunately, one of them, or some of them, got out in a storm. Fence collapsed, and one of them got itself caught in between some rocks. And so she had to jump into action as the Yellow Ranger and try to save the horse. But because it's a rescue horse, it's been abused and it has trouble trusting a person. And so as she tries to save it, it bites and kicks and hurts her. And she has to just keep powering through that. And that was a really, really sweet story too. I really did enjoy that. What's the Blue Ranger's name? Billy. Okay. Billy's the Nerd Ranger. Yeah, Billy's the Nerd Ranger, and he's got to go do some volunteering, some public speaking, and he's really nervous and hates it because it's forcing him to get out of his bubble. When he runs into I believe she's supposed to be a refugee from a family of refugees in the country, who's just embarrassed herself a bit by spilling some stuff on her, or had someone spill it. I think it was just an accident. I think she just spilled some stuff on her because she was shocked by some people's racist ass remarks. So he has to kind of come out of his shell a bit and say, hey, yeah, I know those guys are jerks, but let me see if I can help you out in my own special way. Does this dish get really messy. And so to cover up for her that she's not clumsy, that she didn't do something wrong, they go out on stage together, and he's helping hold this dish for her when he trips and spills it all over her on stage, making him the embarrassment and not her. So, kind of putting himself on the line for her. I thought that was pretty clever. That was pretty good stuff. I like that quite a bit. Then we got Kimberly Hart's what her week was, and she was just out training, and she just escaped from her house a bunch of times for a week to train. And I thought this was pretty clever. We get like her breakdown of how to sneak out of your fucking house, which is great advice for teenagers. I really do like this. It's pretty fun. I love the little doodles and stuff in the notebook. I thought that was pretty cool. Anyway, so yeah, she has this whole, I'm breaking out and just trying to get better at training and all this stuff. But then her mom catches her and ultimately it gets her kind of in trouble. So that was kind of fun. And then after that, they then have to go fight a monster. So they morph and go, and they kind of use the lessons they learned throughout the week to save the day. And like Jason doesn't go all out and try to take over, because he realizes he needs to trust his teammates and they need to be able to help and do some stuff. So just, I don't know, it's clever. It's pretty apparent what she's doing. She's taking the lessons that the characters learned in their week off and applying it to their ranger-ness. So yeah, I don't know. It was a pretty sweet story, pretty fun stuff. I quite enjoyed it. I didn't know what to expect, and I got pretty much on point. This is how Margaret Bennett writes. And I'm really happy with it. I thought it was really interesting. I did want to talk a little bit more in depth about one of the things I liked about the Jason story, where primarily this is all told in sign language captions. And so instead of regular speech bubbles, you get this squared off bubble with a line down more toward the hand than to the speaker's mouth. So I thought that was pretty cool. I don't know. There's no way you could effectively communicate the sign language in the book with the art. I'm sure the hand motions that they're drawing are actual sign language things, and they're probably corresponding to something that's being said. But hell if I know. One thing I did really like, though, about the way they did the sign language is, since it's being interpreted through Jason and he's not an expert on it, occasionally there are moments where he doesn't know what's being said to him. So I have a very student for you, Eliza. That's a really cool thing. And then like he kind of does it later as he tries to sign the word Tyrannosaurus, but he doesn't know how to sign Tyrannosaurus, so it just comes out as question marks Rex. I thought that was pretty good. That was pretty cool. And then, of course, Margaret Bennett does not at all shy away from, getting on an SJW pedestal, and I love her for it. So this whole story with Billy in the Ranger costume under his suit and this refugee girl that he helps out is really like, that's her stamp. She does inject politics into her comics, but she does it really, really well in a way that incorporates it into the story and makes it part of character growth and makes it part of just the plot or makes it part of the story. It doesn't feel tacked on. It's really, really well integrated political parts of the story. And so, sure, that really could have worked with anyone. That could have worked with just anyone who is embarrassed about going on stage, looking a mess because they dropped something. But it works just as well, if not better, to make it to make her a refugee. I think she was. The reason I'm like kind of iffy on that is I'm not sure if I'm literalizing a joke or if this is if I just misinterpreted something. Like, he says something, you new to the neighborhood, and she says, hey, did the Scottish accent tip you off? And so I'm like, wait, does she actually have a Scottish accent, or is she like making a joke about how out of place she looks? It's really hard to tell. I don't know how well that joke landed. If it's probably meant to be a joke without the ability to hear a distinctly not Scottish accent. I wasn't sure about that. And I'm kind of a little fuzzy on the details if she's just moved there, if her family are refugees. But I really liked it. It was a really good story, and it just integrates a real life thing really well into the characters, and I kind of liked that. It was pretty cool stuff. So yeah, really good book. I really like Margaret Bennett. I'll give it at least a couple more issues a go. I don't know if it's enough for, like, I really did enjoy it. I just don't know if I really want to be invested in Power Rangers or not, but I don't know. I'll probably end up just sucked into it and reading it every week like a chump. Robert Emmett is in the comments, and he was very excited for me to talk about Bennett on Power Rangers. Bennett on Rangers was so much fun. The line about the T-Rex being bullies is great because the previous book established that the Red Ranger used to be a bully as a kid, and he's deeply ashamed of it now as he's older. That's a cool detail. And she incorporated the bit from the previous book about how the Blue Ranger is constantly morphed under his clothes because it gives him confidence. This issue is great, but it really builds on the previous Go-Go Power Rangers book, which I highly recommend as it's very similar to this. Go-Go is the character-driven book. Mighty Morphin is the myth-driven book. Both are great for different reasons. Recommend both highly. Is Bennett writing both, or is she just doing an issue of Go-Go? Because I don't know if I can do 2 Power Rangers books just on the writer. I mean, like, there are those people that follow writers and people that follow characters. I do mostly characters, a little bit of writers, but, like, I have to have some interest in the character the writer's going on to really stick with a book long term. I don't know if, like, she's definitely selling me on, like, her ability to write the Power Rangers. I don't know how invested I am in the Power Rangers themselves. If that makes sense. I don't know. I'm going to give it a shot. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. All right, let's talk about... Oh, I didn't realize these lined up like this. So we're going to talk about a very kid-friendly Batman book and then a very not kid-friendly Batman book next. So this was a free issue I got, which was nice because I spent way too much money at the comic store this week. No one tell my wife. This is Batman Little Gotham Special Edition. So we get 2 short stories here. One with Damian and Batman out on Halloween night. Batman has to explain how trick-or-treating works to Damian. I thought that was really, really funny. And he has to ask Damian if he's ever had holidays before. Damian just remembers, well, there was that time we tested out the Lazarus pit and had to fight off undead zombies together as mother, son, and grandfather. That was pretty funny. And then, like, he tries to explain, no, you just you dress up and you get candy. Okay, and it just breaks the gumball machine. I thought that was pretty fun. I quite enjoyed it. And then they go to a restaurant where all of Batman's villains are eating because no one will question them being so strange looking. in this on Halloween night. Poison Ivy eats nothing but meat product, which is really funny. She's the opposite of a vegan because she doesn't want to eat plants. I don't know if that's anywhere near continuity, but it should be. Anyway, Batman and Damian show up, order 2 calzones to go, and then pay the bill for the villains because Batman's nice like that. And they walk out and see the GCPD. Batman says, "Hey, let him finish dinner first. It's on me." It was cute. It was fun. Really enjoyed just, the way Damian and Batman are written here. And then we get a Thanksgiving story where the Penguin attacks the Gotham parade with turkeys. And Batman and Robin have to show up and save the day, which includes Robin leading the turkeys away via march on trumpet. And Batman beating up the Penguin, yada yada. I like this little moment of all the little Gotham characters spread out around the table. It was cute. It was fun. Just enjoyable. Penguin's in jail, and now he has to eat turkey on Thanksgiving. Boo-hoo. I really, really love the art style here. I believe this is it written and drawn by? Or just drawn? It's hard to tell. Dustin Nugyen, I know, is the artist. I follow him on Twitter, and I really do love his art style. It's such a distinct and fun thing. This could be a great animated series style to go with. And so I was just really excited for that reason alone. Yeah, I don't know. It's just really, really fun, really cool art style. I quite enjoy it. So I was excited to pick this up. That's about it. Alrighty. Batman the Damned, #1. Okay, so let me just establish, if you haven't been able to figure it out just by looking at it, this is a good third bigger than your average size comic book, which is cool. I quite like that. I'm keeping it in the bag and board because I kind of already fucked it up. Which is rare for me, but, it was disappointing. Way too expensive a book to do that to, unfortunately. Anything else would have been fine. I wouldn't have been too broken up about it, but $7 for this, and I got some sticky shit on the cover at work. I was reading it at my lunch table and flipped the page over, and there's something on the table. So that kind of sucked. Anyway, yes, this is the book everyone can't stop talking about, because after years of waiting, after people demanding it, it's finally happened. We finally get a shot of what everyone's been waiting for and are so excited to see. It's the best thing ever, man. And I just need to find the page. I'm kind of running out of ways to stall. There we go. You ready? You ready? You ready? Whoop-bam! Batman's penis. There it is. Oh, it's Dark Knight Glory. That's it. That's all anyone's talking about with this. I just rolled my eyes, made me laugh. The Black Label book means artists don't have to put unnecessary censorship, so they can just show things the way that they'd like to. They can show things, they can show off their anatomy skills more profoundly in that way. And it's, I don't know, it's just, it felt really appropriate to me. Like, damn, man, my air conditioner doesn't work in my fucking car right now. And there are days when I get home after driving in gridlock traffic during rush hour, and I'm just sweating balls, and I walk in the door, I'm like, fuck it, and just immediately start changing. So the idea that Batman fucking runs around Gotham doing backflips off of buildings in a rubber suit, and he doesn't come home and just say, fuck it, I'm getting naked. It works for me. It was totally justified. It didn't seem, I don't even know. What would you call it? It didn't seem inappropriate. It didn't seem unnecessary. Yeah, I don't know. Ugh. I'm still tripping on the format of this. I'm wondering if all of the Black Label books are going to be formatted in this magazine large print style or not. Intensely curious on that, because maybe that's just, is it like the artist getting to decide what the aspect ratio of the book's going to be? Because that could be weird. We get like a Frank Miller like 300 style kind of aspect. That'd be cool. Anyway, so what's going on in Batman Damned? There's a lot of mystical shit. That's what I got. It's kind of a horror comic, to be honest with you. There's some shit in here that's really fucking creepy looking. Bermejo is a great artist. Like, this is fucking nuts to see right there. So Batman begins this story nearly dead in the back of an ambulance and has to escape so that his identity isn't corrupted. And it's John Constantine who ends up rescuing him and healing him. And then we begin like flashbacks to Bruce's childhood. And this is by far the freakiest of them, where Bruce keeps seeing this like demonic woman. And so he's like sitting up at night listening to his parents argue because Thomas seems to be having an affair, is the subtext. And this woman from the corner of the room says, Bruce, you want... I know what. I know. Don't be afraid. Ever, never again. I'm not afraid. Should be. I be. Of you to be. That is potentially the scariest shit I think I've seen drawn in a comic in a long ass time. Just this creepy corpse-looking woman. Like, at first I'm like, is that supposed to be Enchantress or what? And I honestly don't know. She does have a moon sigil, a crescent moon sigil. Afraid of me, price high, tears, your tears. Will you cry for me? And then she like holds a dead bat up against young Bruce Wayne's chest. And then it's just like over and he wakes up in a nightmare. And so the subtext there is Bruce doesn't want to be afraid anymore. And he wants his parents to stop fighting. And Enchantress is there and says she can do it, but it's a high price. She needs him to cry. Everyone's connecting these same dots, right? Yeah, Bermejo's art here is absolutely stunning and creepy as shit. Dead man just being kind of like a skinless corpse is fucking weird. Zatanna in this has such a different look to her that I've never seen anywhere. And it's very like modern, you know, it's like if Chris Angel was Zatanna, I guess you'd call it. So I really do love Bermejo's artwork here. The story Azzarello is telling with Batman, I don't know. I'm definitely intrigued by it. I'll give it that much. The Joker is dead. The Joker is dead. His body was found thrown off a bridge. The Batman knows he was on that night, but doesn't have any memory of. And yeah, all these magical DC Universe characters are showing up. And so this is pretty freaky. There's a lot of nice subtext, or not even really subtext. There's a lot of nice stuff going on in the background of the story to establish that Thomas Wayne is a wandering eye kind of husband. I really love this panel, though, of Martha Wayne bitterly looking at Thomas as he checks out another woman in a green dress. I thought that was pretty good. Enchantress, though, creepy as fuck. Yeah, I really like this. This is pretty good. I'm always worried about Azzarello on Batman. I know a lot of people have conflicting. I know there are a lot of conflicting opinions on the Martha Wayne Joker story for the Martha Wayne Joker story from Flashpoint. I know a lot of people have conflicting opinions on that. I quite liked it, but I do think Azzarello wrote one of the worst Joker stories of all time with Joker, but at the same time, he wrote one of the best Lex Luthor stories of all time with Lex Luthor Man of Steel. So I'm really back and forth on it, I guess you'd call it. I don't know. I'm definitely intrigued. I'm certainly most intrigued as to what's going on with this. And I do really like the idea of the Black Label imprint. I think it's a cool idea, and so I'm excited to read some of the stuff from it. Still debating on if I'm gonna read Superman Year One or not. I've no idea. Frank Miller keeps saying that he likes Superman. It's hard to believe sometimes, though. Alrighty, let's go ahead and move on. Talk about Lando, Double or Nothing, number 5. This is the end of this series, I believe, because it kind of leads right into the beginning or wherever he shows up in Solo, which I still haven't seen. I know I'm a bad fan. I don't know. Lando's in a firefight with stormtroopers and says that he really enjoys it, but he doesn't like getting himself into these situations. He's got conflicting opinions, and there's this whole thing of oh, Lando will make you a rebel yet. And he's like, maybe one day, but right now I don't have the patience for politics and stuff. And so it's very wink, wink, nudge, nudge to who he's going to be and stuff. I don't know. It's a big, dumb action scene kind of thing. Just nowhere near as good as the first Lando series was from these Star Wars books. This one's very clearly movie tie-in stuff, and it just didn't work as well. Really short review. I don't have much to say on this. Don't generally recommend it. First issue is all right. I don't think it's bad. I just don't really think it's worth much time. Let's go ahead and move on. We'll talk about Batman number 55. Whoo boy, this is like Tom King week, y'all. So in this story, Batman and Nightwing are working together still, while KG Beast has come to town and is ominously building in the background of the issue. As Nightwing is a smartass to Batman, it's just really fun to see how they play off of each other. Get some absolutely killer art. Who's the artist on this? Is it Tony Daniel? Yeah, I thought so. Get some absolutely killer Tony Daniel art. One of my favorite artists in modern comics. Though that's really not fair because I got exposed to him when I just started reading them. So, really killer art, really fun stuff. A lot of King poking fun at dialogue, or at the Batman-Robin relationship, the Batman-Dick relationship. Nice little self-deprecating joke in here as KGB sits in a crowd of people at a diner, and we just overhear bits of conversation. He's just repeating himself because he thinks that's profound. That was pretty funny. Fan Productions is saying he can't hear me, but everything else is looking good. No one else is complaining yet. I don't know. I quite enjoyed this. This was a lot of fun. Dick Grayson just seems like such a fun guy to be around, and Bruce just is never having it. Jake says Dick is not Spider-Man. I don't know. Dick's, especially like on his own, I don't think Dick is as quippy as Spider-Man. When he's around Batman, I think it comes out of him more. I think that would be my argument. Because this feels very naturally like Dick Grayson and Batman's relationship to me. Where Batman's just like, just work. Just shut up and work. And Dick's all like, all right. I'll do the grunting and the punching. You do the puns. Not doing the puns. And then, yeah, this moment where Dick's like, all right, we're both going to jump off the roof at the same time. And the first one to deploy their grapple loses. And Batman's like, it's not a contest. All right, fine. It's a training exercise. Whatever you got to do, man. I like that. It's quite fun stuff. And so King, of course, anytime you think, man, this is really fun, really enjoyable stuff in a Tom King book, that's immediately when you should be worried, because that's when the shoe's going to drop, because as they're talking to Gordon on a rooftop about, some stuff's going down with the Joker or the Riddler or whatever, Dick's joking around some more about Napkin Man, when suddenly you get the page turn and Dick gets shot in the head by KG Beast. KG Beast goes home. Or leaves to go home. That's all you get. That's the end of the issue. Fucking goddamn, Tom King! You can't just shoot someone in the dick. Jesus Christ. Oh. He just loves doing that to me, man. He just loves breaking your heart, hurting you, shocking you. It just hurts, man. It just hurts. Sometimes I hate Tom King because he fucks with you. He fucks with your mind. Oh. All right. You think like Batman looked at Dick getting shot and was like, damn, he shot my dick. Oh, the pain. The only way to deal with it is humor. All right, let's move on. Last normal issue of the week. We have Wal-mart Superman 100-page giant number 3. I'm not reviewing the whole thing. I just, home improvement stuff, was getting stuff for curtains, needed to stop at Walmart. And while I was there, I was like, all right, let's see if they have the Wal-mart Superman or anything. And they had all of them. I was like, no, I can't justify it. Stuff that I've probably already read for $5. But it's Tom King, first issue of Superman. What am I going to do? All right. So this story is about how Batman brings Superman into a case in which there was a murder and an abduction of some children. And the word abduction is very important there because it looks like they were taken off planet. And Superman is so worried about his responsibilities here on Earth that he doesn't feel it would be right for him to leave to go after just one child. Until he has this conversation with his father. There's nothing to be done. They need me here, Pa. Yeah, I suppose they do. Who knows what's coming our way? Everything could fall tomorrow and the next day and the next. I have to hold it up. I can't just go flying off after one little girl. No, suppose you can't. With the whole Corps, Green Lantern Corps, looking for her, they'll do more than I can do. They'll find her. Yeah, I suppose they will. Unless they don't, that is. And then, well, that little girl just won't be found. She'll be up there, all alone, hurt maybe, scared, waiting and waiting, hoping. You know, little kids always got hope. That's the lesson you gave me, son. You had every problem, but you always had hope. It's all right. Someone will save me. And she'll have it too. No matter how lost she is, she'll be thinking, it's all right. Someone will save me. And then it cuts to Superman doing some incredible shit. Where Batman talks to him and says, Clark, it's Bruce. I just got word. The girl you met in the hospital. She took a bad turn. She passed away last night. I'm sorry. That's the last straw for Superman. You can't do it. He's got to go up and try to find this girl. So Superman's going to space to find a little lost girl. It's a great Superman. It's a great concept for a Superman story. He'll go past the ends of the earth for one person. Yeah. That's good stuff. I was a little surprised that King kind of like leaned on Batman to do this. I thought he would have gone just straight into Superman, but it's interesting to see him kind of transition characters in that way. And I really did quite appreciate it for that. Really cool. Really fun. Or not fun. Again, it's a little sad. You know, a child dies in this story. But it was really good. Just a really good story. The backups here, I don't know. I just didn't have, even though I've not read all of them, I didn't have a ton of interest in reading. We got an issue from Superman, Batman, Public Enemies. And this is the issue where they're fighting all of the supervillains after the $1 billion reward. So that's kind of, I can imagine some kids would have fun with that one. Then we got an issue from John's Green Lantern run. It's really early in his run when he's fighting when he's fighting a manhunter, with one of the best Hal Jordan moments ever, where he jumps out of a plane with absolutely no plan and figures it out on the way to the ground. Really do love that. So that'll give people a cool introduction to Hal Jordan, I hope. What else happened here? And then we got an issue of the Terrifics, which I haven't read, and I've thought about going back through, but I don't know. Yeah. So, I don't know. These are cool collections. Again, I've not had the chance to with the first two issues that I got. I am planning to just donate these. I have very little interest in holding on to these. I'm sure the new runs, the exclusive stories will eventually be reprinted somewhere else. So, it's just kind of what I'm waiting for to really experience those. But I was there, so I figured I'd give it a shot. All right. Excuse me while I go into screen share mode here. There we go. Infinite windows. Those are always fun. All right. Here we go for the first throwback retro review. All right. For those that skipped the beginning, I have the new DC Universe app. It's got a huge comics library, which I'm very excited about. And so I'm going to be reviewing something from the archives. Probably going to be DC since I don't do a lot of back issue collecting from other companies. I'm going to do some stuff from the archives, some stuff I've not talked about on the show before. And my rules are it has to be at least 5 years old, and I haven't talked about it on comic reviews before. So we're starting off with Batman Beyond, number 1 of 6. This came out in 1999 as kind of a tie-in with the launch of the Batman Beyond cartoon. I'm a big Batman Beyond fan, so this idea, seeing this comic kind of jumped out at me, and I was like, "Ooh, yay! Yeah, I'll read that." Ultimately, though, I've only read the first 2 issues this series, but I'll just focus on the first issue. So we get this really cool opening scene that I really liked about Batman as he's like gotten older, and it's in the animated series style. As he's gotten older, he's started to use more tech based stuff for his crime fighting. So he's got kind of like a power armor glove kind of thing going. He's able to take out some crooks. And then there's this line down here. Imagine if he ever makes a whole suit out of that stuff. And then we get the scene where like he's destroyed all these weapons that he prevented these crooks from stealing and getting on the street. But the guy who owns the weapons is not happy that they've been destroyed because the insurance will never pay for it. And what was Batman thinking and stuff? And Batman just looks at me and goes, "I don't like guns." Cut to many years later, and here's my problem with this book. This is literally, from that point on, an adaptation of the first episode of Batman Beyond. I can go through here, and you can see basically, panel for panel, shot for shot. There's a couple coloring differences, like Terry's coat's green. But really, it's just kind of a shortened version of that first episode of Batman Beyond, except the art's not quite as good, which is kind of disappointing. Oh, come on. What happened? There we go. All right. Okay, I'm just losing a page here somewhere along the line. Yeah, so runs into the Jokers, escapes, fights him off with Bruce Wayne, goes to the house. Bruce falls asleep. Terry accidentally discovers the Batcave. I do really like this page layout, though. It's really cool. I don't like that they're not doing the negative lighting in the Batcave. That was always a really, really cool effect and just felt really unique in the animated series. It was especially cool because they didn't do that at any other point in the DCAU. Anytime they were in the Batcave, the lighting was just darker. It wasn't negative. With like the purplish tint. Oh, that was always so cool. Terry goes home, finds out his dad's dead, insists on going back to Wayne Manor. It's all dramatic. And yeah. It's seriously, it's just the first episode of Batman Beyond. So that part of it, a little bit disappointing. I did like this beginning sequence here. These first 3 pages were really cool. Getting to see the background of, like Bruce Wayne improving the technology of the Batsuit and stuff, and kind of laying the foundations for the Batman Beyond costume. I like that. But otherwise, I don't know. This is just a general thing I have with adaptations of movies or whatever. I'm like, what's the point of reading the comic book adaptation of a movie or a show? I've already got the movie or show. Novels, I'm a little more understanding on, just because the format changes, so things get more interesting. But when you've already got something that's got a visual medium, I just don't get it. So yeah. And then trade talk will have to be a little bit different here as I go into Batwoman Hydrology. I think that's the name of it, right? Oh, damn it. The comics reader here is a little off, or maybe that's just the processing power of my computer. I would not be surprised. Okay, give me the first page, please. I'll start trade talk in just a sec. I want to make sure I got the name of this correct. All right, where's my help me out thing? Okay, come on. Ah, Christ, really? Is there a word for that when you've created such an annoyance in your comic? No, I don't want to read number 2. I want to go back to the first page. Oh, this is a pain in the ass. I'm having trouble here. I just keep ending up at the end of the book. I want to go back to the beginning. Thank you. Hydrology is the name of it, right? Yes, Hydrology Part 1. Okay. So yeah, here's trade talk via DC Universe app. Hi, welcome to another Trade Talk episode. This different format because we're using the DC Universe app this week for our trade to discuss, which is the 6-issue series Batwoman Hydrology by J.H. Williams III. I'm not going to be able to go through and show off all the art because of the way the DC Universe app works. I can only look at one issue at a time, so we'll just focus on some of the stuff from the first issue if I need to show art because it's the same team throughout the whole book, which is cool. So I really liked Margaret Bennett's Batwoman run, and it made me want to go read more Batwoman. So when I got the DC Universe app, I saw this and I was like, oh, perfect. And so I'm like kind of working backwards on Batwoman and finding out more about the character in reverse. This is an interesting story in that it kind of takes a supernatural approach. We've got this drowned woman ghost thing that keeps kidnapping and killing children, and it does so by kind of like weeping into their mouths and kind of taking them over. And so Batwoman's put up against that and having to deal with it. But that's only one of the troubles she's currently dealing with. Kate Kane is being hunted by the DEO, who wants to know her secret identity, and she is dating Detective Maggie Sawyer, who is not really happy with Batwoman because they're both working the same case of the drowned woman. So it's a lot of that classic superhero stuff going on. Meanwhile, Kate is also training Flamebird, I believe her name is. I don't know the character's name. She's training her to be her new sidekick. Is not happy with the way she's performing for the most part. These layouts are absolutely gorgeous. I love this untraditional paneling format here. This kind of stuff is just fantastic. I will make a note. Come on, work right. We'll make a note about the reading mode. So here's how this app works when you're reading stuff. And so really cool layouts like that, you kind of lost on you in a way when you go through them panel by panel like this. Admittedly, you do still get this that happens where they'll zoom out and show you the whole panel, but it's not quite the same. So I don't know, just something to talk about there. But anyway, so you got all these different forces kind of conspiring against Kate Kane all at once, and it's causing all kinds of problems for her and a bunch of drama. Again, I love these layouts. This was also during the time of Batman Inc. So Bruce is trying to get her to come in on the whole Batman Inc. project, and she's got very little interest. I don't know. It's an interesting story. It's definitely nowhere near as impactful as Bennett's run was on me. I think Bennett may have ruined Batwoman for me because I don't think I'll be able to find anyone else that can write Batwoman as well. Uh, but I don't know. It was definitely a really interesting read. The way it all kind of comes together. How Kate has to solve this supernatural problem while dealing with this like government problem that I don't know the conclusion to, because it's kind of just left hanging by the end of the story. Flamebird gets brutalized by a villain and gets abducted by the DEO at one point, and that's how they kind of figure out who Kate Kane is. And they want to use her as an agent against Batman and all this stuff. There's all kinds of shit going on. These layouts are so good. So there's just all kinds of things happening, and it kind of does have a bit of a downer ending. Come on, just load the page. Yeah, everyone, the DC Universe app is still in its first couple weeks. It's a little rocky in some ways, but I'm still really happy with it for what it's worth. Oof, man. This scene is really, really good, and it kind of shows you that Kate Kane, while not an awful person, is not a great person and can be a little selfish. So this is the issue in which Flamebird gets like absolutely destroyed by a villain, and you have these black and white, almost pencil pages. It doesn't even look like they're like properly finished coloring, which is a cool effect, of what Kate Kane is doing while this is happening to Flamebird. And Kate Kane and Maggie Sawyer are having sex. That's what's going on. Kate Kane is kind of, rightfully so, living her life, indulging. She's told Flamebird not to be a superhero anymore because she's not cut out for it, or blah, blah, blah. And this is kind of proving her point, but also Kate Kane isn't out there looking out for her. So she's not like it's not that she's a bad person or anything. It's that she's the type of person to kind of trade one addiction for the other, to get caught up in her own stuff and lose track of others. She's not necessarily the most responsible person. I thought that was really, really interesting juxtaposition of scenes, because you have what is drawn as quite a beautiful sex scene just put to this kind of violence. It's quite a juxtaposition. I particularly like this moment right here, wherein Flamebird gets stabbed and the blood literally splashes onto Kate Kane's panel. Literally saying the blood is on her. It's a really interesting juxtaposition there. Yeah, so there's like, Kate doesn't really solve anything. She kind of gets further stuck in a situation here is basically what it's come down to. We don't get much of a conclusion on this story. This is kind of the first chapter in something that I don't know whether or not the second chapter is available of yet. It's in the To Drown the World's the name of the story that this gets continued in, which is interesting. I don't mind that. I don't mind continuing a story. That's kind of the nature of comics, as it were. But I don't know. There's some good shocks, some good reveals. I quite liked it. It was well done. It just wasn't as good as Margaret Bennett's stuff, in my opinion. Yeah, it's kind of where I'm at with it. Good book, though. So, yeah, thanks, everyone, for joining me for this episode of Trade Talk. I know it's not the traditional style, but hopefully you like this. Hopefully it gives you a better view of the art than what we normally get. Let me go back to the YouTube channel there. Yeah. Looking pretty good. Yeah. So hopefully that was something everyone could find some enjoyment in. Stop the screen share there and sign off as myself. So, yep, expect maybe some more of that. I still do have normal trades from other companies and normal trades from DC, so it's not going to be like that every week. But yeah, thanks for joining me for the episode of Trade Talk. Bye. Oh, man, guys. Talking. Well, everyone, thanks very much for sticking with me for this late night episode of Comic Reviews. I had a good time. I hope you did as well. Till next time. Bye.